What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 16 of Rip City Rundown. This is the June 29th podcast. Today we have a couple topics to talk about, but we'll be focusing on two things, and I'll just go and say those two things now. We'll be talking about the Zach Collins injury because that news just broke, and we'll be also talking about the Chauncey Billups press conference that happened earlier today. So, we'll just go ahead and jump into it with Zach Collins. You wanted to explain just what's happened for those that don't know?
Yeah, so Zach Collins, news came out today that he refractured his foot for a third time. I don't know how. Do we know how?
No news has been come out to how he broke it, but they just know that he is preparing for a third surgery, and they don't know how long it'll be either.
Yeah, so we know he had a shoulder problem, and then he had a hairline fracture in his foot, and then he refractured his foot, and now he's fractured it again. And to be honest, now the question for the Blazers is, do we re-sign him? Do we let him walk? Do we try to get something for him? Would you want to see Zach Collins in a Blazer uniform next year?
Well, I love Zach Collins. Every time he's played, every time I've watched him, it's been a positive impact on this team. Do I feel like he should come back? I don't know, because all the times I see him, I don't see him that often, because he's hurt. He's been hurt 3/4 of the time I've seen Blazer basketball. So it's just unfortunate. So do I want him to come back? I can't answer that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because when he's healthy, and it hasn't been very often, but a great case study for this would be the Western Conference Finals from 2019. He makes such an impact on this team, especially on the defensive end. And we obviously know, it's been stressed so many times, the Blazers' defense needs improvement. And Zach Collins would be that, backup bench defensive anchor. But unfortunately, he can't stay healthy. And the Blazers have just a history with bigs that just cannot stay healthy.
Yeah, you look at Greg Oden, you look at Sam Bowie, you just look at draft picks that haven't panned out. Nurkic. But, draft picks haven't panned out well with good players drafted after them. In that draft, we ended up drafting him with the 10th overall pick. We traded 2 picks to get him. I think it was the 15th and 20th. And we drafted him over Donovan Mitchell, who people say Dame wanted, and then also Bam, which probably is a more realistic pick we could have done. But, it's not fair to say that the Zach Collins pick has not worked out due to his injury, but just in reality, it hasn't worked out. It hurts.
Do we know who the 15th and 20th pick were that year?
It was Justin Jackson and Harry Giles. So the people we traded for him turned out good.
Yeah,
trade.
I think it was less about the actual trade and more about the players we passed up. But you could say that for 10 other teams. There's only one team in the draft that gets Donovan Mitchell or one team that gets Jokic. So, yes, you can say, the Blazers took took CJ over Giannis. We should have taken Giannis. Well, millions of other teams did it too.
I think the thing that hurts the most, though, is the fact that Dame wanted to draft Donovan Mitchell. Now, again, he probably wouldn't have turned into a multiple-time All-Star, but he would have been probably better than Zach Collins. And that's, again, no knock on Zach Collins. It's just the unfortunate nature of an injury. But I can't say that it's a bad draft pick when he's hurt all the time. It hurts for me to say that.
How big of a factor do you think he plays on defense? Because, despite Denver's injuries, we, of course, lack the defensive end. Obviously, on big man, we had no 7-footer that could match up with Jokic. How do you think we do that? And I know that Denver has a lot of injuries too, but how do you think we do in that series, assuming Zach's healthy and he plays at full potential?
So I think it's tough because obviously we're all Blazer fans. We're going to be biased, but I genuinely think we would have beat Denver. I think Zach coming off the bench, not only would it provide better defense over Canner, because then Canner would not be playing as much. I don't think that it just would have given us more options off the bench. Zach Collins can stretch the floor. Canner really can't. Zach Collins can shoot and defend. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is just an energizer bunny who can't do anything else other than really give energy and be that kind of – I don't really know. You just look at Rondae Hollis-Jefferson's plus-minus in the playoffs, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It was dog.
I think Zach Collins would have helped our team immensely. And I think what sucks the most about this injury is that Zach Collins could have been, if played the right way, could have been a huge part of this team in the future. If, say, he bulks up and he can be a center for us, at least because a lot of the times we know he's a talented defender, but a lot of the times his strength and size was a reason he sometimes would foul a lot. But now that he has this injury, we can't even see the potential of him.
Yeah, the other thing that's really just disheartening is that I actually went to the Blazer game last March, right before the virus. And Zach Collins, he was hurt, but he was starting to come back. And I actually was able to sit courtside at a game. And prior to the game, Zach Collins was doing sprints, like rehabbing. He was very close to returning, and he even came back in the bubble. And just when I saw him doing that, when I went to watch that game, I was like, all right, he's about to come back. We're about to be healthy. It's going to be great. But no, he then hurt his shoulder in the bubble. And then the problem is his third foot fracture. So again, would you be okay with letting Zach just walk, or would you rather trade him or keep him?
I think
just personal.
Yeah, it's hard at this point. I think we have to trade. I don't know. It's hard.
I mean, one thing that I will say is that Zach, another thing he has is like the toughness factor, like compared to Nurk at least. Like Nurk, yes, he's 7 feet, 290, but you need to take over.
Yeah, he's a young player still. How old is he? 24? 23, 24. But when you have injuries this early in your season or in your career, it's a news for a bad disaster later in time.
And another thing that I was thinking of is the crazy thing about drafting Zach is there's usually two alternate timelines that can happen in any sports in draft. You either draft the player and you do what happens and what follows, or you don't draft the player. So let's say we don't draft Zach Collins. Let's say we draft who Dame wanted, we draft Donovan Mitchell. So now you have Dame, CJ, and Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell probably does not become as good as he truly does playing behind Dame and CJ, but let's say he gets somewhere near where he is. That means you're trading CJ for a big piece, and then all of a sudden you have a contender. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is you could have Dame, D-Mitch, you wouldn't have to trade Norms, you have Gary coming off the bench. But then the other thing is if you draft D-Mitch, you might not be drafting in the 24th spot, and you might not get Simon. So it's all connected. But the point I'm trying to make is one great move can change the course of your franchise forever, and that's what happened with Dame. But unfortunately, Neil Olshey is 1 for 28, and that's why we're not a contender.
When it comes to re-signing Zach, if you had a true prediction, do you see him coming back? Because I think there's still a real possibility we bring him back on the qualifying offer for one more year if he can return in the season.
I think if the injury has him coming back at some point next year, let's say has him coming back by the All-Star break, I see us giving him a 1-year qualifying offer. If he's out for another whole year and the Blazers know that prior to the season, it'd be unfortunate because he could be a good piece in a trade if he becomes good again. But I just don't know. It's how many times can the Blazers wait? How many times can this happen?
Yeah, I can't personally see him coming back. But if he came back and was better than he was when he was on the court, when he was healthy, I would just be ecstatic.
And I guess the last thing I'll say about it is I feel like with hiring Chauncey Billups, this was going to be a key role. And I guess Zach was going to be a key part of that defense off the bench. We were okay, well, Melo and Kanter, terrible defensive tandem. So Kanter and Melo would probably have to go, and Zach could come in and fill that backup center minutes and become a very good backup center, and Billups would use him correctly, a great defense. Now Zach's hurt. So now Billups is going to have to figure out something else, let's go ahead and talk about Billups. So I did that on purpose, bringing up Billups. I think that was pretty clever. Anyway, yeah. So Chauncey Billups press conference earlier today. Initial thoughts. Just the current mood among Blazer faithful and fans is a lot of people were very not upset, just felt like they didn't get a lot out of the press conference. But I think that's the point.
Yeah, it's literally just a press conference. He's not supposed to tell you everything about his life and tell you everything he's going to do for the Blazers. You wait until this actual basketball starts being played. A lot of people on social media are not giving Chauncey a chance at all, and it pisses me off. Do you have something to say about that? Because I see over there.
I was going to make this point, but you led into it perfectly, is that a lot of people who are having they're already thinking Chauncey's a bad coach, or the people who hate the press conference, the way they're handling it, are people who already have preconceived notions that are negative towards Chauncey, because of allegations or because he doesn't have experience or because, whatever it is. And those people, I think, are not looking at the press conference for what it is. This is just an introductory press conference. We're not telling you what we're going to do in Game 3 of the first round of the playoffs. If we tell you that now, the other team will game plan and we will lose. So I'm sorry, you are not the coach of the team. Chauncey Billups is. He has a right to tell you whatever he wants. Now, regarding the allegation question, if you want to talk about that, that's fair.
I'm going to go into that. So that question was being asked many times throughout the press conference. First time it was asked, he answered it. He said, I'm not going to go into the details, but he said, like, it's changed his life, and he's moved on from that, and he's grown from that. Then, after the question is being answered, another person comes in and goes, how do you feel like the 1997 incident has changed your life? So Chauncey is not just going to answer the question again. The Blazers aren't going to leave him out to dry. So the presser or whoever was running the press conference was like, he answered that question. Let's now move on. And now people are thinking that the Blazers are like trying to avoid the question that was answered.
And I think a lot of people are thinking that it's being avoided because of, and the people are thinking this way because they already have preconceived bias that are negative to Chauncey Billups. It's almost like they're trying to find a way to be negative at Chauncey. I'm not saying this is the truth for everyone. I think there are certain people on the internet that are specifically thinking this way, whether they want to admit it or not. Do you have anything to add about Chauncey?
No, not too much. If the Blazers underperform next year, don't make the playoffs, maybe Dame leaves, we get a bad trade for CJ, injuries go wrong, do we fire him or do we keep him, give him lots of chances? How many years do we give him?
Okay, so we gave him, the contract is 4 years or 5 years, but the last year's a team option, so 4 years, bring him back for the fifth if we want to. Now, that leads also to the hate for he's getting. If all that stuff you said does happen, then sure, you can turn on him a little bit. It's proven he's a bad coach. But I do think you give him a couple years at least, unless he just completely just is a bad coach. Like the Pacers this year, they got completely worse, so they fired their coach after 1 year. If that happens, if we get that bad, then sure, it could happen, but I doubt.
But the last thing I want to see is the Blazers start 6-7, and people are calling for his head. They're asking him to get fired. The one thing I ask about these fans that you can have a conversation about the allegations. That's fine. That is an important topic because if it is true, then Chauncey needs to own up to that, and whatever the fallout from that would be.
But I think he has. That's the thing.
Okay, that's cool. That's not the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is you need to keep the allegations in the basketball separate. Just because you believe whatever he did 20 years ago does not mean if the Blazers are 6-7, he should be fired. Now, if you think he should be fired because of pure basketball, that's fine. But the other thing is if you think he should be fired because of pure basketball, but you believe that because you're being biased based on the whole. Just people are they're very opinionated. They believe their own opinions are right. That's fine. Everyone has a right to their own opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just do not just assume he's going to be a bad basketball coach if he did something 20 years ago that you don't agree with, which, of course, no one's going to agree with if it's true. But, again, that doesn't make him a bad basketball coach. There are plenty of people in the world who don't have spotless moral records who are fantastic athletes, actors, just fantastic, successful people in what they do.
Yeah, I mean, for those that don't like Chauncey, just be prepared. I believe he'll be here for at least 2 to 3 years at least, just given the nature that we gave him a 4-year plus 1 contract. But let's talk more about that press conference and Neil Olshey. He actually lived up and said, the problems are on the roster. It's not just coaching.
So first off, just what do you think of Neil Olshey in general?
Negative. Just bad with building the team. What do you say? 1 for 28. Just seems like an off person in general.
Yeah, a lot of people have said, we saw Jordan Schultz tweet it the other day. He's not people aren't just going to go hang out with him because they don't really love his personality. But I mean, I'm not just going to assume that just because of that one tweet. But he did own up to the fact that he needs to work on the roster, and it's not just coaching, because at the press conference at the end of the year, he was like, it's not because of the roster we won this series, it's just because of Terry Stotts, when obviously it was at least partly on the roster.
Yeah, throwing people under the bus is not a good way to make an excuse for your poor job, your job.
And another throwing people under the bus is just not signs of a quality leader. When you're the GM, you're supposed to lead this team. It's the coach who leads the everyday activities, but as a GM, you're supposed to put the coach and the players in a position to succeed. And Neil Olshey has not done that, and I think he knows it. I think he's like, oh gosh, the Blazer fans think I'm an a-hole. They think I'm just gonna, throw people under the bus. So it's possible he could have just owned up to it without actually meaning it. I don't really care. I just want him to put a good team together.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't like Neil Olshey and want him to go because they feel like he hasn't built a good team, and that's one of the reasons why Dame is frustrated.
Which is fair.
But we haven't even talked about the Dame issue other than that one emergency podcast we did that only was on YouTube. But a report did come out earlier today, Brian Windhorst, saying that the Damian Lillard wanting out isn't serious at this point. So we can kind of relax. But then again, that's not Dame
Great
saying
news.
it. That's not Dame saying it. You got to take it with a grain of salt, but it is good news.
It's just, at this point, I believe Dame has talked so much against super teams, against, in his words, running from the grind, that I think it's going to take a lot for him to leave. I think, Chris Haynes came out with the article that there's a growing rift between Blazer brass and Dame. And I think Dame I don't think that's actually the case. I just, Chris Haynes is Dame's mouthpiece for the media. When Dame wants something to get out, it's usually Chris Haynes. I just think Dame, it was kind of like a warning shot, like, look, if you don't put a team around me, I'm not just going to stay here forever. I want to stay here. But if you're going to force my hand now, I will leave.
And these fans, everyone on social media is saying, Dame, come to LA, Dame, come here, Dame, come there. It's like, even if we do trade Dame, like, I would absolutely not, I'm 100% against it.
Well, first off, for all the LA fans out there, if you are listening to this podcast, please talk to all the LA fans out here. They are just not, I don't know, they're just delusional. They're like, let's trade Talen Horton Tucker, Dennis Schroeder, and 2 firsts for Dame, and let's throw in Kuzma. I'm sorry, but Kuzma's playing in China next year. I'm sorry.
We're going to be a great team even if we trade Dame. We're going to get something so good for him, whether that's close or in the future. But, of course, I'm 100% against trading Dame.
Another Aldridge happen, and you got to trade Dame. You can't just let him walk.
Another good thing about the whole Dame news and how it might not be serious is what Nurk said yesterday. We were talking about the Nurk situation in the last podcast, but more news has come out about Nurk, and it was how he quoted, if Damian Lillard leaves, then he's leaving too.
Well, sorry, Nurk, but if Dame leaves, that means we're blowing it up. So, no.
But Nurk kind of started talking a lot in the past, like I think it was either yesterday or the day before. Mm-hmm. He also revealed that what was already a report but not yet confirmed, and it was that Neil Olshey told him that no big trades were going to be happening this offseason, which, again, it could change.
Yeah, and, Neil is not obligated to, and this isn't Neil's fault, but he's not obligated to hold to his word. If there's a deal that comes up that he can't pass up, CJ will be moved.
And with these reports that Neil's not the best person, wouldn't be surprised if he didn't stick to his word. Yeah,
well, just the thing is that, a lot of people from the outside that are not, within, follow the Blazers every day or, hanging on to the news. A lot of people, fans of other teams, people who just are casual NBA fans, a lot of them are looking at the Blazers right now and being like, what a dumpster fire. Their fans are all riled up. The team sucks. Their star wants out. None of those cases are necessarily true. And, being an optimist, I am an optimist. I think that Dame coming out and really putting the heat on Olshey, I am hoping he will go out and make a splash. Like, I'm hoping he pulls like a Danny Ainge and goes out and just spins, get some pieces, and I think and I hope that Dame pushing Olshey will result in something happening. I don't care who gets moved. As long as Dame does not get moved and we are better, I literally don't care what happens. And, maybe Neil Olshey will think that this team just needed a coaching change, and then we'll be good, and Chauncey will make us better. But if you run back the exact same team, I'm talking Melo, Cantor, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Derrick Jones Jr., like the exact same team, but the only change is Chauncey Billups, that is the most dumb thing I've ever heard. Because even Chauncey Billups, if he's a defensive whiz, how are you going to have a plus defense with Cantor and Melo on the floor? Please enlighten me.
We just need some changes. A lot of people were calling for the big changes, but we at least, at the minimum, need some.
We've got to re-sign Norm.
That's, I think,
just to justify the Gary Trent Jr. trade. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Gary Trent Jr., like, at this point, would you rather have Norm or Gary Trent Jr.?
Norm, more developed. We need to win now. Dame's, career's running out, 31 this July, coming up in about a month, so we got to win now before Dame's 5 years older, 35 years old, and he's playing, and Norm's getting up there now, and Nurk's 30. It's just,
And this goes back to Neil Olshey. It's like Neil Olshey has not made a big move in forever. He's very good around the marginal like what?
What big moves has Neil Olshey made, and is the biggest move Derry Trent Jr. for Norman Powell? Like, if you actually I would say trading Nurk was good. I'd say that's the one good one that really made our team better. You got to trade Plumlee for Nurk. That's a win. But other than that, like, Neil Olshey has been very good around the edges, like marginally making this team better. And to be fair to him, when you're a small market team like Portland, it is tough to just be the Lakers or Nets and suck for forever and then get superstars. It's hard. You know, that's why Laker fans are spoiled. Anyway, point being is that Neil Olshey at this point does not have time to make marginal moves. This man has got to make a big move. And you can't just be like, all right, this year we're just going to change the coach. Next year we're going to let Canner walk. And maybe you can't just do these marginal moves and have the team win two more games and get bounced out of the second round instead of the first. You have to go, if you're going to go in, go all in. That's what we always say. Take advantage of Dame's prime.
The Blazers
have to do.
The Blazers have been in the worst. I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but the Blazers have been in a terrible position forever because you either want to be rebuilding or a contender. The Blazers have been neither. They're stuck in middle land. Like, we're like, oh, everything breaks right. The Blazers could win a championship. But it's just as likely for the Blazers to lose to a Jamal Murray-less Nuggets in the first round. And guess what? It happened. So it's just like, you got to go all in. Please go all in. If you lose your job because of it, so what? I feel like Neil Olshey at this point is in like damage control, trying to keep his job, making promises. It's like, go out and get a player. If Ben Simmons goes to another team because there's a better offer, fine. But if Ben Simmons is on the 76ers next year, I will be very, very disappointed.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. I mean, Neil Olshey, you just got to get ballsy. You're going to get fired no matter what if we do bad next year. So might as well go all in and try to make it a big deal to improve the team and give at least yourself a chance to survive.
Exactly. Anything else on that? Okay, let's move to a little lighter note, a little more positive news. It's been rough for the Blazers, but more positive. Dame is going to the Olympics.
Gonna grab the gold no matter what.
Where's Olympics this year?
I think it's in Tokyo.
Tokyo, buddy.
Yeah, it's in Tokyo.
All right.
There have been, concerns about whether it will happen, but as of now, the Olympics are on. Dame is going. It will be interesting, Dame, I think he said he's wearing the number 6.
Oh, I have no clue what he's wearing.
I think I saw an article. He's wearing the number 6.
Why not number 0?
There might be someone else on the team who wears the number 0. I think I saw 6. I'm not positive.
Okay.
But Dame will be playing in the Olympics, so it gives more basketball for the Blazers to watch. It'll be cool to see Dame actually play with some All-Stars.
Could we get a little possible recruiting going on? Maybe. I doubt it. Just given the fact that we live in Portland. But Dame should be starting. Curry's not going. Harden's not going. Obviously, Luka is not American.
I'll just read out the roster quick. It's Jason Tatum. He might be wearing 0. That's why. Tatum, Chris Middleton.
I think we had KD on there.
Yep. Okay, it's Bam, Bradley. This is alphabet quarter. Bam, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, KD, Jeremy Grant, Draymond, Drew Holiday, Zach LaVine, Dame, Kevin Love, Chris Middleton, and Jason Tatum. So looking at those names, it's going to be KD and Dame, in my opinion, are the 2 best players on that team.
Finally, Dame will get some help.
Because the guards are going to be Dame, Drew Holiday, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. I could see Dame starting.
I think Dame will for sure start. I mean, this is his first time in the Olympics. In 2016, he got cut in the final cuts, which I know he was super frustrated about. But this will be his first Olympics, and I mean, obviously, America is favored to win the gold. Will you be watching any Olympics with Damian Lillard?
For sure.
Yeah, no, I'll be watching it for sure. I mean, just see him play with other All-Stars, play with other great players in the NBA.
He'll get the kick out to Kevin Durant instead of David Jr.
Yeah,
that's true.
Believe it or not, guys, that's a big deal when you have the Kevin Durant.
Definitely good for the Dame resume. Put Olympic on that.
Yeah, true. If Dame, one day, this wasn't part of the podcast, but like if Dame's career ended today, is he going to the Hall of Fame?
It would be very tight. I don't know his exact resume.
Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year.
Western Conference Finals.
Got a couple.
Some All-NBA teams.
6 All-Stars.
3, probably at this point. First team he was on once, but he's been a bunch of All-NBA teams. I think Dame needs to. If you add the Olympic gold here, does he go to the Basketball Hall of Fame? It's a different one. it counts international career too.
No, yeah, I know it counts. I mean, the Basketball Hall of Fame is easier than other Hall of Fames to get into. So, I don't know. I'll need to look at his exact
so there's the
record.
Basketball Hall of Fame and the NBA Hall of Fame?
Just the Basketball Hall
Oh,
of
it's
Fame.
just the basketball. Yeah, I could see him getting in. I think a finals appearance would do it. But so
Next year.
Dame, hopefully if Neil gets his head out of it. What? No, okay. So I think that's all I got, guys. Actually, I take it back. I have one more. We're gonna do a little game. We haven't done this in a while.
All right.
Do you know what start bench cut is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we're gonna play start bench cut. Basically, for those of you who are listening who don't know what it is, I say 3 options. You have to start one, bench one, and cut one. It all has to do with how I frame the question. So it could be
So it's like a ranking system.
so it could be, who do you think is the worst player? And you would start the worst player. It's kind of counterintuitive sometimes, but it makes sense. Okay. People you don't want back on the team next year. You start the person who you don't want back first, okay?
All right.
All right. Let's go with Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Melo, and Cantor.
Should I go first?
Go ahead.
So again, starting is who you don't want first.
Okay, I am starting Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. I just don't think he can do much to help the team too much. I am benching. This is hard. I think I'm benching.
Now with Zach out,
I think I'm benching Melo. I'm cutting Cantor. So Cantor would be the first person I would take back out of all those. Now, if Melo's on the team and then Cantor is too, then I'd want both of them gone. But Cantor is more valuable than Melo, in my opinion.
Okay. Interesting. So with Zach Collins, assuming he's healthy, maybe trade someone for him, get another big. I'm gonna cut Cantor here. Just that lack of defense, it just hurt. Yes, I'll miss part.
Technically means start because we're starting the worst player.
No, yeah, I'm cutting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Well, Cantor's the person you're getting rid of.
Yes.
Frame the question a little odd.
Sorry. Starting Cantor. I don't really want to see him back. Nothing against him, but I just think the other two are more valuable. I'm gonna bench Rondé Hollis-Jefferson because I like Carmelo. I think he has that playoff experience. He can hit clutch shots. The Denver, kind of a shaky series, but if he has defensive pieces around him, he doesn't need to be a defensive player. He just needs to score, and he can make those clutch threes, and he can make those game-tying shots in the fourth quarter.
I do think Melo has a higher ceiling than Cantor, but his floor is worse because Melo can just
Melo's also 37.
take away from the offensive
Out of
flow
physics.
all the time. We talk about it all the time, but that's why I would cut Melo or start Melo.
And I think Rondé Hollis-Jefferson can get better. I mean, he didn't have the greatest series against the Nuggets, but Terry was playing around with that lineup in the playoffs as if it was a regular season. Like, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson didn't get any minutes in the regular season, and then here comes Terry, just throw him in there. I mean, I think he still has a lot of potential.
Let's do another. I'll do another start bench cut. This one's more NBA general. Like this doesn't have to do with the Blazers. It's more with the playoffs still. So just a little around the league recap while we're at it. Do a little start bench cut with that. Okay, start bench cut. Who would you want on your team right now in terms of how they're performing in the playoffs? Okay, so basically
All right.
best playoff performer so far right now. Paul George, Devin Booker, Trae Young.
You can go first.
Based solely on the playoffs, I think I have to start Trae Young. I mean, he's averaging like over at least 30 in the playoffs. He's had his huge games. I think I am benching. Both have had their bad games. I think I'm going to bench Booker. I'm going to cut Paul George. Paul George has been really good in the playoffs, but the other two have been just, I think, a little step above. You could go either way with Paul George and Devin Booker, but because of their bad games they've been a little inconsistent here and there. But I think Trae Young has been consistently a really solid player this entire playoff, so that's what I go with.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely start Trae Young, like no brainer. He's been consistent. He's been a super active player on the Hawks, gotten them through games. Down 2-1 right now, but they can come back if Trae has his hot games.
If that ref doesn't sell him again.
If that ref doesn't sell him, Hawks first refs, literally, not conceptually this time, literally. Okay, so and then I'm gonna bench Booker. Paul George, I think I saw a stat today. He's had 20 points every game this playoffs, which I don't think any player's done other than I think it was LeBron, and then one
Kobe.
other name. Yeah, Kobe, and then it was. I don't think it was. Durant, maybe MJ. It was another name, but that is consistent. But he has had some really bad moments, really bad misses. But he does everything around the floor to rebound, assist, which is good. But they're all good. I'm gonna cut Paul George off.
I'll throw my 2 cents in there, and then we'll wrap it up. I would start Trae Young. I think the consensus that Trae Young is doing the most with the least. I think he also is kind of, if he has a bad game, the Hawks have the worst game out of those three. Like, he is the heart and soul of that team. Like, he probably has the highest usage, comes off the pick and roll, he can shoot, and he's playing with swagger too, which is a little annoying, but it's still impressive. So I'd start Trae Young. I'm actually going to bench Paul George. I know he's had some, moments, late in games where he's missed a couple free throws, as people like to call choke or pandemic P. But to do what he's doing, like you said, with the 20-point, streak, and combined with no Kawhi, I don't know. He's been carrying this Clippers team. Even last night he had 41, which I think is probably playing a little bit into my decision here. But I think I'm going to bench PG. I'm going to cut Booker only because if Booker has a bad game, the Suns are totally fine. Booker has been very good, but I think that team is Chris Paul's. I think it's kind of like how Giannis is the best player, but if Middleton is playing well, the Bucks will win. I think it's the same way with Phoenix, which is why it's Phoenix and Bucks in the finals, in my opinion. Okay, so I think that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening. Lots of stuff in the Blazers news today. Zach Collins, Chauncey Billups, Damian Lillard. Hopefully we'll get to the end of the tunnel, and I think the light at the end of the tunnel is the regular season and winning some freaking games. I would like to see the Blazers do well next year. But that's all we got. Come back for, when the next news comes out. Hopefully it's positive. We'll see y'all later. Peace.